June 12th, 1942. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Comment added by Anne on September 28th, 1942. So far you truly have been a great source of comfort to me, and so has Kitty, whom I now write to regularly. This way of keeping a diary is much nicer, and I can hardly wait for those moments when I'm able to write to you. Oh, I'm so glad I brought you along. Sunday, June 14th, 1942. I'll begin from the moment I got you, the moment I saw you lying on the table among my other birthday gifts. I went along when you were bought, but that doesn't count. On Friday, June 12th, I was awake at 6 o'clock, which isn't surprising since it was my birthday. But I'm not allowed to get up at that hour, so I had to control my curiosity until 6:45. When I couldn't wait any longer, I went to the dining room, where Mujit, the cat, welcomed me with a rubbing against my legs. A little after 7, I went to Daddy and Mama, and then to the living room to open my presents, and you were the first thing I saw. Maybe one of my nicest presents. Then a bouquet of roses, some peonies and a potted plant. From Daddy and Mama, I got a blue blouse, a game, a bottle of grape juice, which to my mind tastes a bit like wine. After all, wine is made from grapes. A puzzle, a jar of cold cream, 250 guilders, and a gift certificate for 2 books. I got another book as well, Camera Obscura, but Margaret already has it, so I exchanged mine for something else. A platter of homemade cookies, which I made myself, of course, since I've become quite an expert at baking cookies. Lots of candy, and a strawberry tart from Mother. And a letter from Grammy, right on time, but of course, that was just a coincidence. Then Hanalia came to pick me up, and we went to school. Hanali? During recess, I passed out cookies to my teachers and my class, and then it was time to get back to work. I didn't arrive home until 5, since I went to gym with the rest of the class. I'm not allowed to take part because my shoulder and hips tend to get dislocated. As it was my birthday, I got to decide which game we classmates would play, and I chose volleyball. Afterwards, they all danced around me in a circle and sang happy birthday. When I got home, Sonny Leiterman was already there. Isel Wagner, Hanali Gosler, and Jacqueline Van Marzen came home with me after gym, since we're in the same class. Hanali and Sani used to be my 2 best friends. People who saw us together used to say, "There goes Anne, Hani, and Sani." I only met Jacqueline Van Marzen when I started at the Jewish Lyceum, and now she's my best friend. Isel is Hanali's best friend, and Sani goes to another school and has friends there. They gave me a beautiful book, Dutch Sagas and Legends, but they gave me Volume 2 by mistake, so I exchanged it for two other books for Volume 1. Aunt Helen brought me a puzzle, Aunt Stephanie a darling brooch, and Aunt Lenny a terrific book, Daisy Goes to the Mountains. This morning I lay in the bathtub thinking how wonderful it would be if I had a dog like Rin Tin Tin. I'd call him Rin Tin Tin too, and I'd take him to school with me, where he could stay in the janitor's room or buy the bicycle racks when the weather was good. Monday, June 15th, 1942. I had my birthday party on Sunday afternoon. The Rin Tin Tin movie was a big hit with my classmates. I got 2 brooches, a bookmark, and 2 books. I'll start by saying a few things about my school and my class, beginning with the students. Betty Blow Mendel looks kind of poor, and I think she probably is. She lives on some obscure street in West Amsterdam, and none of us know where it is. She does very well at school, but that's because she works so hard, not because she's smart. She's pretty quiet. Jacqueline is supposedly my best friend, but I've never had a real friend. At first I thought Jackie would be one, but I was badly mistaken. DQ is a very nervous girl who's always forgetting things, so the teachers keep assigning her extra homework as punishment. She's very kind, especially to GZ. ES talks so much it isn't funny. She's always touching your hair, filling with your buttons when she asks you something. They say she can't stand me, but I don't care, since I don't much like her either. Henny Metz is a nice girl with a cheerful disposition, except that she talks in a loud voice and is really childish when she's playing outdoors. Unfortunately, Henny has a girlfriend named Beppy, who's a bad influence on her because she's dirty and vulgar. JR, I could write a whole book about her. Jay is a detestable, sneaky, stuck-up, two-faced gossip who thinks she's so grown up. She's really got Jackie under a spell, and that's a shame. Jay is easily offended, bursts into tears at the slightest thing, and to top it all off, is a terrible show-off. Miss J always has to be right. She's very rich and has a closet full of the most adorable dresses that are way too old for her. She thinks she's gorgeous, but she's not. Jay and I can't stand each other. Elsa Wagner is a nice girl with a chillful disposition, but she's extremely finicky and can spend hours moaning and groaning about something. Elsa likes me a lot. She's very smart, but lazy. Hanali, or Lies, as she's called at school, is a bit on the strange side. She's usually shy, outspoken at home, but reserved around other people. She blabs whatever you tell her to her mother, but she says what she thinks, and lately I've come to appreciate her a great deal. Nanny Van Prague Cigarg is small, funny, and sensible. I think she's nice. She's pretty smart. There isn't much else you can say about Nanny. Effie Dunjon, no, I can't say that one. Effie is, in my opinion, terrific. Though she's only 12, she's quite the lady. She acts as if I were a baby. She's also very helpful, and I like her. GZ is the prettiest girl in our class. She has a nice face, but is kind of dumb. I think they're going to hold her back a year, but of course, I haven't told her that yet. Comment added by Anne at a later date. To my great surprise, GZ wasn't held back a year after all. And sitting next to GZ is the last of us 12 girls, me. There's a lot to be said about the boys, or maybe not so much after all. Maurice Coaster is one of my many admirers, but pretty much of a pest. Sally Springer has a filthy mind, and rumor has it that he's gone all the way. Still, I think he's terrific because he's very funny. Emile Bonewit is GZ's admirer, but she doesn't care. He's pretty boring. Rob Cohen used to be in love with me too, but I can't stand him anymore. He's an obnoxious, two-faced, lying, sniveling little goof who has an awful high opinion of himself. Max Van Delvede is a farm boy from Medemblik, but a decent sort, as Margot would say. Herman Koopman also has a filthy mind, but just like Kopi de Beer, who's a terrible flirt and absolutely girl crazy. Leo Bloom is Joppy's best friend, but has been ruined by his dirty mind. Albert came from the Montessori school and skipped a grade. He's really smart. Leo Slager came from the same school, but isn't as smart. Rue Stoppelman is a short, goofy boy from Almilio who transferred to the school in the middle of the year. Cian does whatever he's not supposed to. Jacques Couchernut sits behind me next to C, and we, G and I, laugh ourselves silly. Harry Schnapp is the most decent boy in our class. He's nice. Werner Joseph is nice too, but all the changes taking place lately have made him too quiet, so he seems boring. Sam Solomon is one of those tough guys from across the tracks, a real brat. Admirer. Appy Rimey is pretty orthodox, but also a brat. Saturday, June 20th, 1942. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I've never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing, and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those little days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hand, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. I finally stayed where I was, brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience. And since I'm not planning to let anyone else read this stiff-backed notebook, grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. Now I'm back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. And I'm not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a throng of admirers who can't keep their adoring eyes off me, and who sometimes have to resort to using a broken pocket mirror to try and catch a glimpse of me in the classroom. I have a family, loving aunts, and a good home. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything, except my one true friend. All I think about when I'm friends, all I think about when I'm with friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary, everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they're not liable to change. This is why I've started the diary. To enhance the image of this long-awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do, but I want the diary to be my friend, and I'm going to call this friend Kitty. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty if I were to plunge right in, I better prove a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. My father, the most adorable father I've ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36, and she was 25. My sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt am Main in Germany in 1926. I was born on June 12, 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. Because we're Jewish, my father immigrated to Holland in 1933, when he became the managing director of the Dutch Operact Company, which manufactures products used in making jam. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September, while Margot and I were sent to Aachen to stay with our grandmother. Margot went to Holland in December, and I followed in February, when I was plucked down on the table as a birthday present to Margot. I started right away at a Montessori nursery school. I stayed there until I was 6, at which time I started first grade. In 6th grade, my teacher was Mrs. Kupris, principal. At the end of the year, we were both in tears as we said a heartbreaking farewell, because I'd been accepted at the Jewish, I want to say it's like where Margot always went to school. Our lives were not without anxiety, since our relatives in Germany were suffering under Hitler's anti-Jewish laws. After the pogroms in 1938, my 2 uncles, my mother's brothers, fled Germany, finding safe refuge in North America. My elderly grandmother came to live with us. She was 73 years old at the time. After May 1940, the good times were few and far between. First there was a war, then the capitulation, and then the arrival of the Germans, which is when the trouble started for the Jews. Our freedom was severely restricted by a series of anti-Jewish decrees. Jews were required to wear a yellow star. Jews were required to turn in their bicycles. Jews were forbidden to use streetcars. Jews were forbidden to ride in cars, even their own. Jews were required to do their shopping between 3 and 5 p.m. Jews were required to frequent only Jewish-owned barbershops and beauty parlors. Jews were forbidden to be out on the streets between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Jews were forbidden to go to the theaters, movies, or any other forms of entertainment. Jews were forbidden to use swimming pools, tennis courts, hockey fields, or any other athletic fields. Jews were forbidden to go rowing. Jews were forbidden to take part in any athletic activity in public. Jews were forbidden to sit in the gardens or those of their friends after 8 p.m. Jews were forbidden to visit Christians in their homes. Jews were required to attend Jewish schools, etc. You couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, but life went on. Jackie always said to me, I don't dare do anything anymore, because I'm afraid it's not allowed. In the summer of 1941, Grandma got sick and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. In the summer of 1940, we didn't do much for my birthday either, since the fighting had just ended in Holland. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. The birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the others, and Grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. The 4 of us are still doing well, and that brings me to the present day of June 20th, 1942, and the solemn dedication of my diary. So this is the Diary of Anne Frank, also known as the Diary of a Young Girl. It is a challenge book, and as of this week, we are celebrating Banned Book Week. And Banned Book Week basically is a great way to highlight the freedom that we have to read what we want, despite the possibility that it might have content that others find questionable. We will be doing a reading of The Adventures of Captain Underpants tomorrow. Our reading will start at 4 and we'll end at 8, and we will have, I believe, 8 different people reading The Adventures of Captain Underpants for you. I hope that you join us tomorrow online. We will be live streaming this reading event, or if you want, you can come in. You can join us here in the study room and listen to our live reading there as well. I hope to see you then, and have a good day.